Hey, hi, I'm Chris. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Every day I do a vlog, and I'm doing one for 1,000 days, guys. 1,000 days. Still going, so that's pretty good, isn't it? Hey, look at this behind me. This is so gloriously beautiful, isn't it? And what a wonderful world we live in. But it can be evil and horrible. And what do I mean by that? Well, have you ever heard of a thing called serial killers? Well, I met the brother of a serial killer when I used to be a police officer, and this story really resonated today because this week in the news something horrible has gone on. Now, I was in my marked police car and I saw a vehicle driving a little bit erratically, so I decided to stop the car. And this is a true story, by the way. So I stopped the vehicle. There were three men inside. Two of the passenger and the rear passenger were very keen to get out, so I ordered them to stay inside the vehicle, and I got the driver out first of all. Now I remember doing a check on the driver, and at the time he was wanted by several other police forces here in the UK, so I promptly arrested him. And the other chap had drugs on him in the front seat, so I also arrested him as well. And the chap in the back, well, he was to prove to be the most interesting character. He was the brother of a serial killer, and I got him out of the vehicle, and well, fate intervened, but I searched him and found him in possession of an axe and knives, very sharp knives. And yeah, so I promptly arrested him for being in possession of offensive weapons, and I ended up eventually taking all three into custody. I was hoping that somebody at the police station would interview this chap with the axe and the knives, but that wasn't to be the case. In fact, they said to me, "Chris, you're going to have to speak with him and interview him and do all the paperwork," which is something you don't normally do on response, but I know things change around, and they pull a switcher, and sometimes they change the dynamic of what officers have to do. But I absolutely spoke to him on tape and on a recording at the time, and he told me that he was the brother of a very, very famous serial killer. Yeah. And he told me the story about his sister, who was a serial killer along with her husband, and they had obviously taken the lives of several people in probably one of the most heinous crimes that you could do here in the UK. The husband went on to end his life, and I believe his sister is still in prison, still doing time, and she'll never see the light of day. And of course he told me the story about how he feared people would recognize him, and he also feared that people would just approach him, and he had the knives really for his own protection, which, as you know, in UK law that's not permissible. You can't do that. There are certain caveats to owning or having in your possession a sharply pointed implement, and he did not meet that, so therefore it was a straightforward charge to the court, and off he went. Now this story made national news right across the UK, so it was a good stop for me, and it was an interesting one. All three characters were very, very strange people, but I remember thinking about how this chap presented, and what is a serial killer, and would any of us recognize a serial killer? I don't think we would. They present as just ordinary people, and I think given that story, it's very possible that I've met, in total I've met about 5 murderers in my time as a police officer. 5 sounds a lot, doesn't it? It's probably not. There's probably loads of killers out there that have walked free, or have been imprisoned by officers, but it's shocking, really, in as much as that when you look at the detail of it. Anybody that you speak to really can have the propensity to be to be that person. But thankfully, most people are really good. I would say 99.9999% of the population of the world are great. It's just that tiny percentage. But I remember thinking at the time, whenever anybody really thinks about what is a serial killer, or somebody who goes on to be just a heinous, evil individual, they're going to have family. Now, does it necessarily convey that their family's bad? I would say no. No, not even. I think it's quite natural, really, for family members to be absolutely the opposite, and decry what their sibling or family member has done. So you can have the opinion where actually, all of the family are wrong, but I think that would probably be just a foolish concoction, really. But this chap, speaking to him, he conveyed some of the story about his sister and the connection here with this city as well. And it was a fascinating insight, and interesting in as much as that when you realise the person that he was related to, and all the intrigue and just volatile upbringing that they had, you've got to say to yourself, thank God I was raised in a very normal, very, very loving, very caring sort of family environment. And that begs the question, are we all victims of our environment? I always say hurt people, and there's some truth to that. So I think she was probably his sister, that is, who went on to be a killer, very born into this family, and it was maybe inevitable that she was going to turn out to be this damaged. To some degree, the guy I arrested was also damaged. He obviously was trying to carve out an existence for him in the best way that he could. But it was obvious to me that his education wasn't there. He didn't have access to possibly some of the things that maybe I've had access to growing up, and maybe no role models, maybe nobody to shine that light to say this is the way to go forward, this is the way to live your life. But it was a fascinating insight nonetheless. And it just shone light on the fact that just this week, I believe, in another country, there's been an event involving several people who've ended up losing their lives. And that's the absolute tragedy of people who choose to kill. And I believe the person who did that this week obviously ended their life. So it's a fascinating subject. I know a lot of people are gripped by true crime and are gripped by all sorts of elements of true crime, of which I've got thousands of stories, but I've resisted the urge to tell them because I just didn't think people would be that interested. It is an indictment on society that we need to sort of be inclusive of everybody and try and bring them along and lift them up and make them a better standard of human being in our communities. But that's not always the case, and sometimes people's choices doesn't give them the opportunity then to be successful in our communities, in our cities, in our homes. So it's a deep subject, isn't it? Well talked about. True crime, everybody sort of got an interest in it. If you see something on the news, it does grab your attention, and it is very sad that we get these very big events that make the headlines, and it does make you think, thank goodness that my life and the place that I live is pretty safe, and people are pretty nice. And if you've got that, that's worth hanging on to. So sticking to the rules, sticking to the rule of law, doing the right things, being a good person, I think that counts for a lot today. It really does. If you can do that, if you can spread some sort of happiness and joy and realise that not everybody comes from the same background that you have, and some people turn out to be the most evil people going. I guess in the face of that, do we present evil with evil? No, we don't. No, we're better than that. We present evil with something different, because that might be a beacon for them. Whenever we experience bad behaviour, it's important, I think, to challenge that bad behaviour, but you don't do it with more bad behaviour. You do it with holding a light up and saying, this is the way forward. Let's do that. It'll be better for you. It'll be better for everybody else. Anyway, thank you so much. This is part of my daily vlog series. I hope you've enjoyed this very brief insight. And I've got to let you see this again. Come on, look at this. This is one of my favourite spots, and I absolutely love it here. It's gorgeous. And you're gorgeous. So I'm out of here. Have a great time. If you're not subscribed, a subscribe would be absolutely incredible. And I'll see you guys tomorrow, because this is part of my everyday 1000-day vlog. I'll see you then. Bye now.